My wife and parents think I came home after going missing, but it isn't me. Now, I've stayed in a hotel before that literally had a mummified cat in it. They had it on display behind glass and had found it buried under the floor years ago while doing renovation. I hadn't been scared then because I wrote it off as a relic of an old superstition. To me, it was a fascinating, if morbid, artifact, nothing more. But now seeing this mark with fresh eyes, and having experienced what my dad and I had experienced, I shuddered. I called my dad over and showed him the result. The first thing he said was, "Well, they were able to take photos of those signs and they didn't disappear. So why did yours?" It was a fair observation. What was different about the place we'd visited? Was the sign just a coincidence? And to be honest, I still wasn't sure whether we'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe the radio mast had beamed some kind of bizarre, brain-altering signal into our heads. But then it hadn't happened to my wife, sister, and brother-in-law. And besides, there was a caravan park right next to the mast. If it was making people hallucinate, entire buildings, I'd imagine the people staying at the caravan site would have noticed. I spoke to my dad about going back to the tower again, but he didn't want to. I think the whole thing had shaken him up. I could tell the mental shutters were coming down. He was starting to file this experience. Away under just forget about it. Thinking about this will lead to dark places. It was a technique he'd picked up over a tough childhood. And it was not a technique I was familiar with. For me, all that was left was curiosity. I asked my wife if she'd go with me, but she said no. There's nothing there. I think she was being protective. She could tell this had got under my skin and was trying to get me to leave it alone. I wish I'd listened to her because from here, things get blurry for me. You'll see what I mean. I left it for a couple of weeks and tried to take my wife's advice. I went to work during the week. We did chores and shopped at the weekends, saw my parents, and didn't mention the tower. But in the back of my mind, I kept seeing that sign and the tower. I kept thinking, was it really there? What had I seen? Was this all in my head? And if it was, did I need to see a doctor? So, I did what every idiot character in a horror movie does. I went back alone. Like the story? Like, comment and share it for the next part.